again. My name is Bill Tam, and I have the honor of being part of the Supercluster. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Hall this morning. If I can maybe just ask folks, this is going to be a big turnout today. So if I could ask everybody to just put yourselves on mute for this conversation. We're going to have a really interactive Q&A opportunity just to moderate today. I think we're going to have probably about 130, 140 people join us on the session. So we're going to try to manage this session through the chat box for questions that may arise. And as you ask questions, we might ask you to unmute yourself and ask them in person if as the case may be. So again, I want to welcome everyone who is already a member of the Supercluster, already an associate of the Supercluster, and all those that are joining for the very first time. This is an unprecedented sort of time that we're in right now, and this is by far and away the largest virtual gathering we've had at the Supercluster, and so I want to welcome everybody this afternoon. I think the context today is to share some information with you about some recent programs that we've launched, answer a lot of the questions I think that are coming up to us, and maybe just recognize just for a moment that all of us are working really hard under the circumstances to try to make a difference in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis. And on behalf of Sue Page, our CEO, and everyone on the Supercluster team, we're trying to do everything we can to support the needs of sort of those who are responding to the COVID-19 crisis, and all those like yourselves on this call who are eager to help in some way. You know, I think the motto I think that our elected officials have been promoting, and one that I think we can all attest to, is that we are in this together. And I want to thank you guys for all being part of this. So over the last 10 days, we've commenced a very intense effort to launch a new COVID-19 program. And the intention here is to support all levels of government, our partners in the health authorities, and all the folks that are really trying to respond to this issue. And of course, it's not just in the health side, it's also across the societal side of the equation that we want to make sure that we can do everything that we can. Many of you have received the information that we sent on our newsletter last Friday that talks to the fact that we have launched a $60 million program around COVID-19. But I also recognize that there's a lot of questions that people have about what it means to be part of the Supercluster, and some of the other interactions that perhaps for those who have not been with us through this, we want to make sure that we answer some of those questions. So today there are really two focuses for our agenda. We want to have lots of time for your questions and to answer things that may be on your mind, but really two things we want to talk about. One is our COVID-19 program, more information about that, allow you the opportunity to ask questions. And then secondarily, what does it mean to become a member? What are some of the updates around what it means to be a member? And I'm joined today by two of my colleagues at the Supercluster, Karen McClure, who runs all of our programs and projects, and Kaylee Gatton, who is our Director of Communications, who is helping to moderate the session today. So maybe what I can do is get you folks all kind of geared up. There is a chat window on Zoom, and you can use that to start to kind of post questions. But what we'll do is the first half of the session will just be Karen and I talking a little bit about the program, talking a little bit about what it means to be membership. And I'll first of all start with Karen, who's going to take it over from here and talk about the COVID-19 program. So Karen, over to you.
Thanks very much, Bill. Can you hear me? I'm going to share my screen and show everybody our new COVID program webpage. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm going to assume yes. Fantastic. Thank you. So super excited, everybody, to launch this new COVID-19 program. The objective of the program is for the Supercluster to invest in the development and the deployment of digital technologies that will help Canada and Canadians address the needs and effects of COVID-19. The program is designed to balance the need for speed, we're all dealing in a new world, and the need for integrity and due diligence as our role as stewards of taxpayer dollars. So I want to thank the Government of Canada, first of all, for their support in providing a bit more flexibility than our regular programs and to help us find pathways to expedite a review and selection program, selection of new COVID-19 projects. We're also working with the Government of Canada to streamline the administration on these projects, so stay tuned for more of those details. On our website, you'll see some information that is available to you. It's available publicly. First thing that I want to point out is the areas of focus for investment. And these are areas of focus that are based on the needs that we've heard to date. I do expect that we'll continue to refine these as we learn more and hear more from our members and from our communities and our government. So the areas of focus for our program are to help our health system, to support our health workers, our hospitals, to manage resources to provide high quality care to patients. Second area of focus is around community health. Technology solutions that enable Canadians, their families, their friends to access care in their communities, in their homes, or in remote locations, and to connect and support each other. The third area of focus is we call safe living. And it's really around enabling technologies for Canadians to live safely and securely and to access the support and resources they need, whether they be at home or at work. The fourth area of focus is called diagnostics and therapeutics, looking for platforms that support the sharing of data, research and scientific development, clinical trials, all in the drive to discover and deploy new vaccines, new tests, and new therapies for COVID-19. And lastly, the last area of focus is emergency response. New tools and technologies that can be used to predict, plan, and respond to any subsequent COVID-19 waves and other crisis situations. So that's where we'll be focusing our investment. I will go up and point that we do have resources that I invite you to review, which talk about project eligibility, organization eligibility, and also eligibility of costs for the program. The first one is our program guide, and the second one is our co-investment guidelines. I'm not going to open them and scroll through, but I did want to show you that those are available on our website. We do have limited funding for this program. We've allocated $60 million for this program. To date, we've received over 150 ideas with a total value of $500 million and higher. So we're not going to be able to fund all of the ideas that come forward. Only the most impactful and those that address the most critical needs will move forward. We are looking for ideas that will provide immediate impact up to 12 to 18 months. Those with the biggest and fastest impact will be considered first. So those ideas that are coming in, we are prioritizing and reviewing those that have the biggest and fastest impact first. The program works a little bit differently, so I just wanted to highlight a few of the highlights about the program. This program is designed around continuous intake. That means that you can submit your ideas at any time. There's no deadline for which you need to submit your idea. Do it when you're ready. Any member or associate can submit an idea. As I mentioned, all ideas will be reviewed in a priority order based on time to impact as well as degree of impact. We will work with you to develop your ideas, or in some cases, we may redirect them to a suitable place. We are working with our federal and provincial colleagues to understand other programs that may be out there, and there may be other programs that are more suited to your needs, and if so, we'll redirect you there. It is critical as part of your idea that you submit that you're clear about the needs that you're addressing and that you've validated that need. It's really important that customers who are going to buy your solution or use your solution are involved in the proposal and the project that you would be developing. Again, the highest potential ideas will be considered first. One of the other key differences about this program is that you will be invited to submit a proposal. So we will review all of the ideas that come forward, and as they're developed, invite certain project teams and proposal teams to submit a proposal. The second core element of our program is collaboration. As you probably all know, collaboration is core to the superclusters and the way that we work. We are trying to simplify the process in working with a lead organization who may have a team working with them. We'll also be looking at a reasonable cost structure of all of the participants in the program. And as with all of our programs, eligible costs will be used to determine a funding amount. I will highlight here where my mouse is that we do have some new co-investment guidelines that have been posted, and again, I invite you to review that so you understand how funding will work. As I mentioned, teams will be invited to submit a proposal when their ideas are developed enough. Once invited, there will be a proposal to submit and a budget to submit. And an associate can lead the proposal with the expectation that if the project is selected for funding, that they must become a member once the project is selected. The proposal is streamlined. It is intended to be, a 10-ish page document, not a 200-page document. And so we are trying to streamline the process. As I mentioned, there is a budget. Again, the budget will be looking for reasonable and justified costs of all of the project participants. And it will be used to understand how the cost structure for this proposal is expected to work. We do have a project selection committee that will review and evaluate and make recommendations to the supercluster for investment. That project selection committee is made up primarily of independent experts from across the country that will review and evaluate each and every proposal that comes forward. The criteria for evaluation is outlined in the program guide, which is available to everyone here. At a high level, the criteria is grouped into three categories: impact of the proposed project, including the impact on small and medium enterprises and jobs. Second category is around the team and the execution plan for the project. And the third category is around the technology solutions itself and how intellectual property will be managed. That criteria will be used as the basis for the project selection committee to evaluate and make its recommendations. This committee is planning on meeting at least weekly to move things forward quickly. If necessary, we'll schedule ad hoc meetings in between. So that gives you an idea of the pace of the program. We're trying to move quickly. For those projects that are selected for investment, we will have a simplified contract. We are also looking at ways where we may be able to advance some funds in some situations, and the agreement will outline the reporting requirements. It is our expectation that to simplify this contracting process, that we will be contracting with a lead organization that will have other participants identified in the project, but we'll contract with the lead organization, and that program funds would flow through the lead organization in most cases. The funding for this program is more flexible than our other programs. We have some flexibility to determine the amount of funding as a percentage of eligible costs. Again, that funding recommendation will be made by the project selection committee, with the final decision made by the supercluster. So it's our expectation that we could potentially fund between 50 and 100% of all eligible project costs, depending on the merits of the project and the composition of the team. All the costs must still be eligible, however, and so again, I invite you to review the co-investment guidelines for reference. There are a few differences, and as an example, HR benefits are eligible up to 20% of salary under this new program. Again, we're learning as we go, and so some of these guidelines may be refined over time as we get more experience. The other thing that I just wanted to point out is that we know many of you are active in current projects. We understand that there may be impacts on resourcing or some of the activities on your current projects. we're working with each and every project team to understand and make reasonable adjustments to accommodate. There are several project teams that we've been talking to that want to expand or refocus to support COVID-19, and those ideas will go through this exact same process. They will be evaluated in the same way that new ideas are, and these ideas also need to be submitted through the COVID-19 idea portal, which is accessed through this Get in Touch with Us button. In addition to that, we do have regular programs in technology leadership and capacity building. Right now, with our focus on COVID-19, we do expect that we'll have a regular cycle call for technology leadership that will open later this spring and summer. So with that, maybe I'll turn it over to Bill if you're moderating to take questions and answers.
I think we've got a few that are on the chat windows. So maybe Kaylee, if you wouldn't mind just kind of driving through this and then repeating any questions that pertain to the program. We'll start there.
Absolutely. So just going in order of everyone submitting their questions, this is from Antonio. What is the deadline to become an associate in order for a project proposal to be considered?
So Antonio, I think you can join the associate right away. It's free to join, so there's no barriers there. I would encourage anyone who's not already an associate to go ahead and do that. I'll cover that in the member section. Actually, Kaylee, why don't I just take the comms? It'll be easier since I'll probably be driving here.
Wonderful.
So Sam, you asked a question about project criteria to make selections. I think they are all in the program guide. So if you glance through the details of the program selection criteria and where we're weighting the selection criteria. This might be a question, Karen, that you can answer. It's from Avishkar from an academic institution with a supercluster to provide assistance in partner matching.
Yeah, that's a great question and logical. So one thing that I neglected to mention, so that's a good reminder, is that all of the proposals and ideas must be industry led. And so we expect the lead organization will be an industry partner. And certainly all kinds of organizations are welcome to be part of the project team. As the funds will be flowing through the industry partner, you can work with your team to receive funds through the industry partner.
Okay. And if for whatever reason there's more to your questions, just keep putting them up. Mark, welcome to the call. Thanks for asking the complicated question here about generation of new data. So if I understand your question correctly, will we be working with other research organizations? Can you kind of have an intermix of different programs together? And I think the answer would be yes. If I haven't answered your question, then maybe if you want to just go off mute and let me know if there's something more to your question.
Yeah, I think you got to the essence of it. I think we're just aware that some of their funding bodies are going to be supporting the generation of new data. Funding bodies like CIHR and others, Genome Canada, for example. So I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for the digital technology that we develop as part of these projects to be supportive of those kinds of projects, and if there's an opportunity to link them together any more formally.
Karen, do you have anything?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yes, I do think there's that opportunity. Again, we are coordinating with those other programs. I think what we need to be cognizant of is stacking. And so we'd want to, the government would want to make sure that it fits within the stacking rules, but absolutely we're happy to coordinate with other programs if the project is selected and has merit.
Okay, great, thanks.
So Chris from UVic asked a question about whether universities could take the lead of a project. Karen, can you answer that?
Yeah, so thank you. university cannot lead the project. The project must be led by an industry, a member, large or small, and university can participate in the program.
So Jared, your question about associate members getting paired with lead member organizations. So if Digitalist is not already an associate, it'd be great if you guys did sign up. I think we do try to provide resources to find out who the real members are, and we will do our best to connect you with lead member organizations that work on projects. You just have to bear with us in terms of specificity. The more specific you are with respect to who you're looking for intros to, the better it is. And there is contact information on our member resource portal that shows the email address of the lead contact in each of the member organizations to help you through that. So the next question from Jamie is, can startup companies enter as lead organization with an MVP? Absolutely. When I go through the member portion of this discussion, you'll find that quite a number of startup companies are leads in our existing projects and are members within the supercluster as well. I think the next one is from Gia. How much capital investment is required to lead a project? Maybe Karen, you can answer this question, please.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a tricky question. It depends. So certainly, the supercluster programs are designed as a co-investment model, where the supercluster co-invests with the lead organization and the other project participants. Again, depending on the merits of the project and some of the particulars around the project budget and the project itself, we do have flexibility to fund, different percentages. And so the project selection committee, when they are deliberating about the project, will be making a recommendation as to how much the supercluster should be funding based on the costs that are included in the budget relative to the project. And it may or may not be capital, it may be operating costs as well.
So the next question is, so thanks, Chris, from UVic. Can we comment on whether non-Canadian companies could join the consortium, and if they don't have a Canadian office? So I'll go through some of that when I talk about membership, but the construct of the Supercluster program is to fund Canadian organizations for work, R&D work that's done in Canada. So certainly we can have consortium members that are non-Canadian. However, we cannot provide direct funding to them. If a consortium member within the project, the lead organization, in the case of what Karen was describing, wishes to provide funding through them to such an organization, it's their choice to do that.
And maybe I'll just add to that, Bill. In the co-investment guidelines, it does outline that the work needs to be done in Canada. If there's an exceptional situation where the resource or the IP or equipment or things like that are not available in Canada, there is an application process where we can submit that to the Government of Canada for consideration. And for the COVID-19 program, the government has set up an expedited approval process on foreign costs.
And James, I think you asked a similar question to one earlier about university researchers finding industrial partners. So we will endeavor to do our best to provide what matching we can. And to the extent that there's interest, we will try to convene ideation sort of sessions on a virtual basis so that people can find each other. Okay, maybe what I can do here is let me take a bit of a break on the questions and let me address some of the membership areas, and then we'll come back to the questions from that point forward. So maybe just in this context, I know that we have a real combination of folks, some of whom are members, some of whom are associates, and some of whom are joining us for the very first time. For all of our existing members and many associates who are involved in projects with us, I'm going to go over some ground that you're already very familiar with, but at the tail end of this, I believe there are some updates that might be useful for you as well, so bear with me. I think for all the new organizations who are joining us for the very first time, first of all, welcome. What I'm going to do is provide a brief overview of how the Supercluster works and what it means to be part of this community, because it very much is a community, and I'm going to walk through some of the essential things that you need to know, and then we can do more downstream. I think part of being welcoming to the supercluster community is just an understanding of what it means. There are some principles that we abide by. Certainly, this is a community that is open. It is a community that is, by its very design, diverse in terms of expertise. It's a community that is, by definition and how we set up the supercluster, is collaborative. We have a charter of values that underlies and is the foundation of how we operate. And really what the charter of values does is it enshrines the commitment that we have to one another as part of being in this supercluster community. So I think maybe I can go through quickly the origin piece, because it's important to acknowledge that there was an original set of members. In fact, there were 29 members that set up the supercluster in the first place. It was designed by members for members. And now this original base of 29 members has grown to a community of more than 500 organizations, of which there's almost 50 full members that are part of the supercluster. Our mandate is to invest in collaborative R&D projects, and our mandate is to do so over the course of the next 3.5 years. It started about 1.5 years ago. We're about 1.5 years into our lifespan. We started with 4 programs, 3 in the technology areas, 1 in capacity building meaning that we're doing things to invest in our very local and national ecosystem. And the 3 technology program areas you'll find on our website, but they were really designed with the input of those original members in terms of the things that we can do to really advance technology development in the digital era, and how we can enshrine Canada's leadership position in a few areas. Precision health, data commons, and digital twins are the program areas that we chose, and you'll find more of that information on the website. If I go back for a moment to some of the core principles, when I said membership is open, that is in fact the case, that any organization, provided that they're Canadian, has the opportunity to join the supercluster. We start with inviting people to join as associates, because that's the best way to get companies and organizations involved with us in all the things that we do to try to elicit and encourage collaboration. And then there's a progression to move from associate to a full member, which I'll talk about in a moment. One of the really important principles that we set up at the very beginning was to ensure there was a level playing field. A level playing field in that small and large companies all could participate together without the usual dynamics that we see oftentimes, where large companies will occupy a particular position that maybe doesn't favor small companies, or vice versa. We might see small companies getting special treatment or laneways that aren't afforded to large companies. We treat members, whether you're large or small, exactly the same way. And that's actually reflected in the fact that the membership that we have now has a really diverse mix of startups, SMEs, and large companies. Across our more than 500 organizations, I'd say there's probably 2/3 or more are SMEs or startups, and then the rest is research and academic institutions, large organizations, government institutions. And in our full membership, what we see is that about half of our members are startups and SMEs, about 1/3 of them are large companies, and the rest is made up of research, post-secondary, and government organizations. I think one of the important aspects of why people have joined the supercluster is the opportunity to do business with organizations that they hadn't actually previously known, and to understand that there is power in the diversity of views and expertise that can be brought across different industry segments, across different disciplines. And that's what's led to some exciting projects that we've seen through the first 18 months of our life. So far, we've had more than 100 organizations involved in almost 30 projects that we have co-funded and contracted to date. The starting point, I think, for anyone who is new to the supercluster is to join on our webpage. You'll find a link that helps you to fill in some forms to join immediately as an associate. Now, joining it as an associate means that you get access to all of our resource portal. You can then discover who else are members or associates of the supercluster. There are resources there to help you understand how to propose projects. And most importantly, I think there's some guidebooks by which you can get better oriented to how the supercluster works. We recognize that our member portal is something that we put up as sort of a version 1. We are working on making it more user friendly. It's one of those things that we have a commitment to do over the course of the next couple of months. But in the meantime, it should give you the rudimentary tools in order to get started. I think one of the important aspects of it is that projects that are funded is really a function of us being able to allocate the dollars that we have in our management. So we have about $150 million of funding from the Government of Canada, matched against a little bit more than $170 million worth of private sector investment commitments. But the idea here is to invest that into projects that are ultimately going to make a difference in the program areas that we're talking about. In COVID-19 in particular, that's a $60 million fund. And so what we're looking to do is to fund the projects through the lead organization in order so that we can make a difference in this response. Typically, we don't ask organizations to become full members until they have actually got a successful project. That way we can make sure that it's the most streamlined approach for those that are looking to be part of this, but are unsure whether or not they're going to have a successful project, that we give you the opportunity to wait until such a time as it makes sense for you to join as a full member. Now, becoming a full member comes with certain benefits. You know, this is a member-driven organization, which really means that the members are the ones that are setting strategy. The members are the ones that are representing sort of the board. They're the ones that are really looking at how all these projects connect together so that we can actually participate in a more meaningful way to larger and larger R&D ambitions. Some of the things that we have worked on, though, is to simplify the member structure. For those of you who've kind of been looking at past information that we have about membership, you probably have seen that we had previously member commitments, you know, there are program management fees, all of that. We are undertaking an effort to drastically and dramatically simplify that so that it will simply be a case of a very modest annual member fee. It'll be an annual membership, and then there'll be a percentage of the project that you'll be paying fees towards as you make claims. And so that is probably the big difference that's going to happen over the course of the next, in fact, we will have this launched in the course of the next couple of days. And in that regard, you'll see more information that will come through to everyone on the call and on our website. Have that put up. One of the aspects of becoming a member, though, is that there's both the opportunity to receive funds, but also the obligation and commitment to actually helping to shape the direction of the supercluster. So it comes with both sides of it. That's why I mentioned that membership has its benefits, but it also has its commitments. Every organization that joins the supercluster as an associate or as a member is by rights signing on to a code of conduct and a charter of values that we hope will actually be the foundation by which collaborations like this will continue on into the decades to come. So that's sort of the high-level overview. I realize I only had one chart here to show you, but there'll be more information that will be coming out about the new member structure in the coming days. So let me pause there and see if there's any questions that we can queue up here. Kaylee, can you remind me of where we left off, please?
Hi there, yes. The question, I believe, is from Jesse Harris. So we have been distributing masks and supplies to the homeless in Vancouver. We have donated around 5,000 masks and collecting data on the transmission levels. Can funding be used to directly help these people?
Hey, how's it going? Hear me?
So
Great, yes.
this is an example. Hi. So this is a great example of the kind of initiatives that we hope to see, but maybe outside the mandate of what we're trying to do is development and deployment of new technologies. But maybe we could take that offline. We did launch an initiative along with the government of BC today on a supply hub, which I think will hope to centralize sort of the supply opportunity for those that can contribute supplies, and then on the receiving side, the health authorities and those that are in need of them. But I may not have answered your question completely. So if you want to go off mute, Jesse, let me know if I haven't.
Yeah, it's more about the supply chains and how they're all being bogged down, probably from agriculture to, distribution levels, and where funding comes from, because it seems always like everybody wants to help and everybody has the money to give to these, organizations that are struggling right now, and all, frontliners working in, grocery stores with no masks or something like that, right? So it's kind of come up that it's needed, and we've tried, I think we have like 20 business behind us right now, us helping with that. So it's in the works of, getting the money and then getting the supplies needed in a swift manner, without having to bog down the hospital supply chains kind of deal, right?
Yeah, I understand, Jesse. So I think there are other programs that are more suited to what you're describing.
Yeah.
And maybe after this call, you can send me a quick email. It's btam@digitalsupercluster.ca, and I can direct you to the right resource and also the supply hub that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Thanks for your question.
I have one more question while I'm on here. My friend he's not in the supercluster, but he's a teacher, and he's come up with an AI platform that can do the teaching automatically from K1 to K12. And he's interested in getting involved in this. So maybe I'll send a link offline as well with you to, assess that situation, because it's fairly advanced, but he's launching it next week. And I think he's looking for opportunities and stuff like that too. So I'll put that in.
Jesse, thanks for that question. Actually, that's a great reminder to Karen's comments earlier. So if you can just direct people to the website with the link to submitting project ideas.
Yeah.
And because we've gotten such a big volume of ideas, we just want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. So have them review the program guide, the project submission piece, and we'll make sure that we can take a look at that. Thanks for that question.
Cool,
okay, why don't we carry on the next question. I think there was a comment. Thank you for that. I'm sure the member fees will make it easier for lots of other people. How soon will the supercluster be approaching associates whose projects are chosen? So I think Karen already mentioned that that's a pretty rapid basis. So if there's a project that's in the works, Karen, do you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. So there's two steps. One is submit your idea, and we'll get back to you. Again, we're trying to get back to people as quickly as possible, like within days. We're talking days, not weeks or months. And we are prioritizing. So we'll get back to you about your idea and talk about it and work with you to get ready to assess whether this is the right program for you, or whether this is something that fits within our mandate. For those organizations that and projects that are invited to submit a proposal, you'll submit your proposal whenever you're ready to. And then I would expect that we would be making decisions on that proposed project within a week or so. As I mentioned, the project selection committee is planning on meeting weekly and reviewing groups of proposals in order to expedite reviews and decisions. So between a week and 2 weeks after the proposal is submitted.
Yeah, excellent. May I have a quick follow-up on that comment you just made?
Yes.
Yes. So I received an email saying that if you are not yet an associate, you're most welcome to become an associate now. If I were to introduce myself as an associate, I would be introducing myself as a sole proprietorship, and I'm trying to garner, partnership with medium or large size organizations in parallel. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm not going to miss the window of opportunity where you guys go through it, you realize I'm not an associate, and then you discard the idea.
No, I think we would review your idea. We would talk to you and potentially introduce you to others who may be able to help you execute on your idea as well.
So the next question, I think, from Jennifer is, can you tell us more about independent expert reviewers and what expertise they have? Karen, do you want to answer that?
Yep, for sure. So we have quite a diverse group of expert reviewers. We have physicians, we have experts in genomics and bioinformatics, as you asked. We have experts in health and life sciences, as well as early investors, venture investors. And so it's quite a diverse group of people, as well as you know, some folks who work in the innovation space. And so I expect that later today or tomorrow that we'll be posting the bios of everybody that's on our project selection committee so that you can take a look at who they are. Invite you to do that. Could I just ask that those people put their telephones or their computers on mute while we're going through the Q&A? Thank you.
So Jared had a question about, can a company in Canada that's foreign controlled and associate member receive supercluster funds through a lead organization? So there's two parts to that. Firstly, I think Canadian means that you have a Canadian, you're incorporated in Canada. That means that you could be either headquartered in Canada or you can be a multinational that has an office in Canada but is properly incorporated in Canada. In terms of receiving dollars, if you are a lead organization, you must be a member. If you're an associate member, if the lead organization, the member, decides that they want to provide funding to you, then that's fine. Okay, the next question. Can a sole proprietorship be a lead organization? I think, Antonio, that was your question. I think we answered that already, right?
That's right, thanks.
Okay. Jesse, btam at digitalsupercluster.ca. Okay, Claire's question. We have a machine learning company that is exploring relevant data sets to develop predictive models. We don't yet have a concrete project idea yet, so I'm not sure where to start with the idea portal or wait until you have a defined. So my suggestion is develop your idea a bit more. I think the guide will help. I think if you review other projects that we have described on our website, it'll give you a sense as to what projects we've done in the past. But I would suggest that you put something together. You have a little bit more concrete aspects to your project idea before you submit something.
Okay, thank you.
Jesse had a question. Sorry, just business development. Okay. At what level, if any, will proposals be made public so companies that wish to partner with an idea originators can reach out to explore collaboration? Good question. Karen, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, so it is our intent to be able to share publicly the baseline information about ideas that have been submitted. So what your idea is, who the lead organizations and the funding amount that, or the cost of the project. We're just working on getting some tech available to us so that we can make that available easily. And so I expect within the next few days, maybe early next week, that we'll have that information available on our website.
Okay, so I think we've gone through all the questions on the group chat. If there are more questions and you haven't posed it, I think we have a raise hand option on Zoom. And Kaylee, if you can keep an eye for that. If anyone has an additional question, we're happy to take it.
Oh, I see we have another question in the chat box.
Okay.
Yes.
Are universities considered applicants or service providers as part of the project, or does that depend on the individual project? Karen, do you want to try that one?
Yeah, I would say it's they would be project participants, and it will vary depending on the nature of the project. As I mentioned before, it is expected that proposals are industry-led and that any university or researcher that wants to participate in the project would be considered a co-applicant.
Okay, sounds like we actually got through the bulk of the questions. If there aren't any other questions, maybe Kaylee, if you could help us with mapping the steps from here, that would be great.
Oh, sorry, Bill, you cut out a little bit at the end. Could you just repeat that?
Yeah, Kaylee, if you could just take us to what the next.
Oh, I see that they're actually, I think we're losing Bill, that's okay.
Yeah.
There are a few more questions in the queue.
Okay, I can
and
take those.
Thanks, Karen.
There was a follow-on question from Renee in terms of, can universities add overhead costs to the budget? And that is, again, is an it depends question, because these projects will receive funding through an industry partner. Typically what universities have agreed to is that we would not fund overhead costs, but given if there's a MyTax situation or an industry funding situation, then we'd have to look at the individual situation in order to make that determination. So the answer is a maybe.
Thank you.
No worries. The next question, can I submit as an associate member and become a full member if my project is selected? The answer to that is yes. And so to submit an idea, anybody can submit an idea, whether you're a member or an associate. You can submit a proposal if you're an associate, as long as you understand that if your project is selected, that you will need to become a full member before we can sign an agreement or flow any funding to you. Next question, are there any members or associates who work in research of mental health? Certainly
Jeff,
there, go ahead.
So I can answer that by saying there are. We have Coast Mental Health, and there are a variety of organizations. If you actually look through the list, that's actually on our public webpage. You'll be able to screen through all the associates that are there. So the next question, do you want to carry on, Karen? I apologize. My internet seems to be cutting in and out.
That's okay. The next question is from Elliot. Is it correct that the industry lead must be a member? Also, can an associate become a member to lead the project? So first of all, the lead for the project must be an industry organization of any size. And as I said before, you can be an associate to submit your idea or put in a proposal, as long as you understand that if your project is selected for investment, you must become a member in order to sign an agreement and receive funding from the Supercluster. Next question from Sean. If you have a project that could potentially be of a longer project, but there's a portion that could be more immediate benefit, should we focus on submitting the entire idea or just the imminent portion? My suggestion would be to start with the imminent portion and give an idea of what you're thinking of for the longer portion, so that we could consider, you know, is this a phased project? Certainly if the project is too big, we would invite you also to break it up into pieces. And so my advice would be start with the smaller pieces and state your intention that you may want to go larger. Next question from Jenna. If people already have MyTax in place or have applied for it, are they okay to apply for this too? Yes. So you can certainly apply to MyTax to support funding in a project. Again, it's subject to stacking rules, and so the total funding sources for a project can exceed its total costs from government sources. And so we would want to know that and just make sure that we're determining the funding amount accordingly. Question, I was disconnected from the call. Will you share the slide deck and questions that were asked? I'm going to turn that over to Kaylee.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Yes, to confirm, the call was recorded, and we are aware that the Zoom link did kick out some of the participants due to the 100 capacity. So we will be posting the playback to our website this afternoon to share with those who are unable to attend, and we sincerely apologize, and we'll make sure this isn't the case moving forward. Just along the lines of the communication, I can just say two things to echo Bill and Karen. The new COVID-19 program page on our website and our resource portal is where you can find all related COVID-19 program material. Please note that it's updated frequently with new items, so please be sure to check in regularly. And again, if you have any questions, I'll provide the contact emails on the website. It's covid@digitalsupercluster.ca. or you can also email our info@digitalsupercluster.ca, as I see some of you guys are doing in submitting questions. Those questions that were submitted by email, we'll be sure to respond to you this week with those answers and share them with the group. Thank you.
Okay, I see one final question from Safran about stacking rules. So
Okay.
stacking, you want to answer that, Karen?
Yeah, I mean, the principle behind stacking is that the total funding from government sources can't exceed the total cost of the project. And so you're not getting more money than you're going to spend. But certainly you can combine sources of funds, so whether that's Supercluster, MyTax, other sources of funds, so that you could potentially fund 100% of your project through various programs. Does that answer your question?
It's hard to nod, I know.
I know.
So let's assume that's the case, Karen. So Mike had a question about, he's got a project in design stages. He's going to work on it regardless. Supercluster funding, is there anything I should address? An idea submission, but the fact it's an ongoing project, or does it change how it's evaluated? So Karen, this might actually be a good segue to talk about future cycles and submissions that way too.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks, Bill. So typically, when we evaluate projects, we do expect that it's incremental to your normal business, and that would be one of the criteria. As I mentioned earlier, we will be opening a new cycle call for our technology leadership program to be able to submit expressions of interest and proposals through our regular program, and I expect that will be open in the spring, summer, once the intensity of this COVID-19 program dies down a little bit, if it ever does. So certainly encourage you to consider that as an alternative if what you're doing is really part of your normal business.
Looks like we have gone through all the questions. Just to reiterate what Kaylee was saying earlier, we will have a recording for everyone. And I want to thank everyone for being part of this this call. And I again share the enthusiasm that I think has been expressed through the chat about what everyone is trying to do to make a difference, especially in these more difficult times that we're faced with. And I just want to wish all of you and your colleagues and your families all the best. Stay safe, and we look forward to working with you.